My name is Fidel Navarro, and I'm going to be interviewing Eduardo for my hip hop final. So, first things first, Eduardo, what do you do within the world of hip hop?
Alright, so obviously I produce music, so that means I make beats. I make beats on Ableton. I started producing 3 years ago, I believe like early 2022 or early 2023, around there. But I specialize in hip hop. I make a lot of other things too. You know, I made soundtracks for films because I work on short films. But that's mainly when I get into the field of music. You know, I started in hip hop and I'm still doing hip hop today.
That's cool. So it's primarily what you're doing?
Yeah, primarily.
That's cool. Where do you draw your inspiration from? Who are your paramount figures?
So I really get my inspiration, originally I got my inspiration to start making music from my cousins because they made music, they started making music and they put me on into the world of making music specifically in Ableton. So I started there, they started teaching me how to make beats, how to like mix the productions. But that's just like where I got into making music. You know, I already listened to it for a while since I was in middle school. I'm listening to hip hop music, but I never really thought about making it until my cousins introduced me to it. So when I make my music, I take inspiration from artists like Tyler the Creator, Metro Boomin, I think who else? Kanye West, and a few artists like around that nature. I also like take inspiration from like Playboy Cardi. And I like the way that they make their music, their beats. You know, since I'm a beat producer, I like to listen to the little sounds that not a lot of people like to probably hear music, and I try and incorporate that into my beats and take inspiration from it.
It's really cool. Where do you think your line is within like following trends or drawing inspiration from people and then like making it your own?
Well, the line is I don't want to cross the sign of like where I start basically plagiarizing, where I start stealing, you know? Like, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm producing a song and it sounds super similar to something that's already out. I don't want it to be like, oh, this sounds like if it was a second version or like a follow-up of this song that's already out. I can take inspiration, obviously, like, oh, I might like the notes they use here, I might like the way they made the drums, and I get inspiration from that. But I won't ever make like basically a twin of the song, just in a different way.
You want to be your own self.
Yeah, I don't want to be following behind someone's footsteps. I want to develop my own sound in my own way.
I mean, I feel like that draws them perfectly into the exclusivity or whether hip hop should be inclusive or not. Where do you stand on that? Do you think it's a genre that should welcome all, or do you think there's a line of you can't just jump into this world and make it your own sort of?
I think that hip hop is one of those genres that is really inclusive with everyone around it. Anyone, mostly, I mean nowadays at least, everyone, it's more common that more people are producers, rappers, hip hop artists. They do like a lot of different themes. You know, hip hop has a lot of subcategories, and it really adds a lot more to the genre, you know, and it makes it wide and big enough so that way more people can feel included in it. So now, pretty much, hip hop is allowing anyone to be in the genre and take part of the culture. So it's really inclusive in that sense. I don't really understand how it could be exclusive because it's open to everyone and it's easy to get in, and it's more like easy to get in, hard to master.
Okay. So, what, in your perspective, makes a great hip hop record? You were talking earlier about essentially making it your own. Would you say that's really what makes it great, having it stand out from other records?
Well, one thing is having it stand out from other records. You know, you get a new audience if it stands out. People, either they like it or they hate it, which is still part of the audience, you know, like people that love and hate. So it does make it stand out, and it does make a good track if it stands out, but there's a certain limit where it stands out. It can stand out where, in a good way, it's something that you took an idea and you expanded on it in your own way, and it really is liking to the public, or it could be in a way where they don't like the idea that you had and they disagree with the way you took the artistic direction you took. So what makes a good hip hop record, I believe, is the way that not just the artist makes it, because you know each individual artist has their own sound, but also there's a few general rules that you follow when making music. Obviously, you're not just gonna go on there and put random notes together and hope for the best. You need to know the basics, basically, in order to be able to make a good hip hop track. But it also boils down to just the experience and like the knowledge that you've gained from years or time, whatever amount of time you've taken into the art. That makes a good hip hop record.
What would you say your process is? Are you someone that just takes their time with the record, does a little bit at a time, or do you like to just get in the booth and just work progressively until you get it done?
I'm the type of person that does a little bit of both. So I'll get into the booth and I'll work for hours at a time. It takes a lot of my time up to work on hours at a time, but that's the best way I feel I can do. So I'll work on something for hours at a time, let's say like 4 to 6 hours on a track until I get it down perfectly to my liking. And then after I say I'm finished for the day, I'll leave it off at that and I'll get back to it the next day or a few days later whenever I get the chance again. And I'll re-listen. I'll do listen and see, okay, let's see, now that I have a clean ear, now I'm not focused on after hearing it multiple times. Let's see if it sounds different now. If it sounds different in a good way, I'll keep working on it. And if it doesn't sound different, if it sounds different in a bad way, I'll do some modifications. I'll change, let's say I don't like the synths in it. I'll try some different melodies in there, or I'll just switch out the instruments to see what is more attuned to my liking and what the vision is for me in the beat.
Is there a specific genre within hip hop that you like to orientate your style around?
I like bass heavy hip hop, which is like the thuds. You hear the hip hop, boom boom boom. You hear the hip hop music, and it's like very upbeat. I like my music to be upbeat. But in terms of the way I make my music, even though I take heavy inspiration from that, and I really do like that, when I make my own music, it's very gaming in a sense. Like it's video game style hip hop tracks. So it's more like a few tracks I can think of that off the top of my head is like most recently Playboi Carti's music album, the song Radar, which is very like alien-y sound effects and very gamey sound effects. And that's mainly what I work with in my music. I like to be apocalyptic and almost retro with my tracks.
Expanding the questions to like a grander scale, what would you say the impact of hip hop has been on our world, both in past and in present?
Well, hip hop, ever since it was originated, it's been greatly, especially in the early stages, it was promoting like for people to express themselves, a way for the people to express themselves. Like in the art of that, people were able to talk about problems they faced in songs, or just the way that hip hop, like the style to the way they dressed. It's another way that people were expressing themselves. So I feel like hip hop has always been a way to express yourself, and even now in the present, many people that are hip hop artists or just avid listeners, they can relate to songs. They can feel the way the artist feels. They can dress and like resonate with the way artists dress, and hip hop has become a way where people can relate their emotions, their feelings, or just things that they love and they're passionate about together with music.
What's your end goal for music? Where do you have to get for you to be like, I made it, I'm doing what I dream of? You were mentioning earlier your music has a sort of gaming feel to it. Is that an avenue you'd like to pursue, where you make like tracks for like video games, movies? Because you also said you're into cinematography. Is that the avenue you'd like to pursue, or are you more so into like collaborations with big artists?
That's a good question. So I've always wanted to produce music of some sort, whether that be for games, for movies, or for artists. But me personally, I have a lot of fun producing music for films and also for artists. I like producing hip hop beats. So I feel like I would have made it the minute I start actually making money from my music production, whether it be from selling music to artists, making music for movies, or making music for video games. The minute I start making money from my music is the moment where I feel, oh wow, I made it.
What is your favorite project you've worked on?
My favorite project I've worked on so far, there's a few notable ones I can think of, but it's hard. I have a few projects. I think there's this one project I made recently. Let's see, it's Who Are You? Basically, that's the name of the project. It still has a gamey feel, and it's like, it's very retro in a sense, but it's also upbeat, and it really resonates with me. It feels like a punchy beat. Like you get into it, and it feels like they start slapping you. Like It has nice, in my opinion, I like the way I made the bass on it. It has a nice pop track, and I did the drums. I like the way I did the drums on there, and like the main like chorus is well put together, and it has a nice little beat switch in the middle of the beat that I've heard from most of my friends that I've showed it to. They said that it's a really well made beat switch, and they really like the way it makes it feel. And I feel like that's probably the best project I've worked on so far. And I spent a lot of time on it, you know, on and off. I made it like a year ago, and ever since then, you know, I go on and off working on it. And I think I finally perfected it just recently, like a few weeks ago. You know, I finally finished fully fleshing it out, and now I feel like it's one of my greatest tracks I made to this day.
Was that the one that you showcased during our class?
No.
I remember your track specifically. Out of the people that have showcased to our class, I feel like one of the reasons I asked you is because your work felt very polished in comparison to everyone else. So that's what I was wondering, if maybe it was that one, because I really enjoyed the beat you showed us.
Thank you, but no, it wasn't that one. The one I showed to the class was an I Love Somebody beat. I made it with the feelings of love for somebody that I didn't have at the time. So I showed it to the class obviously because, you know, we were doing a sampling like show section, and that was one of the few beats I made that used a sample and incorporated a sample. So I decided to show it off to the class. At the time I showed it to the class, it wasn't fully fleshed out, so it was like more of the 80 to 90% of the way of the production. I needed to do a little bit more remixing, some more mastering, and then it'll probably be done. But you know, there's still a lot of work to do, and especially I feel like when you're a producer, you can almost most of the time you can always come up with more ideas on a beat, and you sometimes think you may be done, but later you realize, oh, I'm gonna add this or I'm gonna change this, because you just come up with new ideas along the way.
Okay. And so, seeing as you're a producer, how do you target or approach collaborations? Are you more so someone that likes to work your style around the person you're collaborating with, or do you search out for someone who you think has a similar style to yours and just go from there?
Well, I haven't had many collaborations because I'm mostly a self-known artist. So I work for myself and I make music for myself. So most of the music I make is for me. But there has been a few times where I made music for collaborations. One I can think specifically is a beat I made for me and my friend. One of my friends' name is Ruben. I wanted to get on the track together, and he gave me kind of a flow that he wants. He wanted something like heavy or like kind of mysterious. So I decided to work around that and make a track that fits his vibe and fits his lyrics. Obviously, he sent me lyrics first, and then based off his lyrics, I decided how am I going to make this track. So when I collaborate with someone, I am more here for what works well with their tone of voice and what the idea they have in mind.
Okay. As an up-and-coming producer, is there any advice you'd have for someone looking to get into the industry, like maybe what softwares you used early on, or just how you target entering the industry?
So for any aspiring producers, not just producers, you know, hip-hop artists in general, I believe it's better to do the work and do your like, just put your work out there rather than to be scared. You know, people sometimes are scared. They're like, what if my work isn't good enough? What if I'm judged? It's okay. We're all judged at some point. When I started out, I look back at some of my old tracks. I'm like, dang, this is horrible to compare to what I make now. And it's always because we all start somewhere, you know. We all have to go through the learning experience and learn how to produce music or how to rap on music. And we all learn, like, you know, we can learn through YouTube, you can learn through people, your peers that might make music, which is the way I learned. But at the end of the day, more since I'm a producer, I can give tips to producers. If you want to start out producing music, I would recommend, you know, obviously for free, I would recommend trying out BandLab either on your phone or on a laptop, which it's amazing production software that you can use to make beats basically for free. And if you have money to spend, I would recommend either getting Fruit Loop or Ableton, which I've been using Ableton ever since I started producing music. I was able to get a discount on it by using a student discount because I'm in college. I'm pretty sure I got it in high school though, so you could also get it as a high school student. So you get half off of the original price. So if you have money to spend, I would recommend getting a more polished version like Ableton or Fruit Loop. Even Logic's works too. I've heard of Logic's as well too. But there's no shame in using an app like BandLab because it's really good at doing production and the what's it called? the platform you use to make your music is only as good as you make it. So you can make an amazing beat depending on what platform you're on if you just really have a great idea in mind and you know the ways to get to that idea.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank Eduardo for helping me out with this interview. I think it's really important for someone like me who's really, I consider myself more like a casual observer of hip hop to gain some perspective from someone who is in this world, particularly a producer who I think are very overlooked at times. So thank you for helping me out. Where can people find your music?
People can find my music on YouTube and SoundCloud right now at the moment. I go by the name Kraftr, and it's spelled Kraftr.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.